Of course, I'll be reviewing this movie this weekend, but a movie shot by a British director in Greece and several other countries is only the beginning of this weekend's international movie Odyssey. I'll also be reviewing an Indian romantic comedy, a Nigerian romantic drama, and an Arabic buddy comedy. Plus, I'll have 2 retro reel reviews for you, both with strong connections with the Odyssey. That and more coming your way this weekend at the movies. The Odyssey is an epic fantasy action film written and directed by Christopher Nolan. It's an adaptation of Homer's ancient Greek epic poem of the same title. The film stars Matt Damon as Odysseus, the Greek king of Ithaca, and chronicles his long and perilous journey home after the Trojan War. As Odysseus is being held on an island by Calypso, Charlize Theron, he's struggling to regain the memory he lost during the shipwreck which stranded him there. As he slowly pieces things together, we see his story unfold through a series of flashbacks. From the end of the Trojan War, legendary hollow wooden horse trick and all, through his and his men's encounters with mythical creatures and dangerous natural phenomenon on land and sea. Meanwhile, his devoted wife Penelope, Anne Hathaway, and their now adult son, Telemachus, Tom Holland, are hoping Odysseus is still alive and pining for his return. Penelope is under increasing pressure from dozens of suitors, especially one played by Robert Pattinson, to remarry, just as Telemachus sails for Sparta to talk to its king and former Odysseus' comrade-in-arms, John Bernthal, and his queen, Helen of Troy, Lupita Nyong'o, to see if there is any news of his father. Will Telemachus find the answers he's seeking? Will Penelope remarry? Will Odysseus ever make it home? To answer any of these questions would be to provide major spoilers, which I simply won't do. So I guess you'll just have to see the movie. And see the Odyssey is exactly what you should do. Epic is almost too small a word for this movie. Clocking in at just under 3 hours, with generous amounts of action, it takes us from thrilling adventure to thrilling adventure across many locations, real and unreal, the whole time with serious intrigue and drama simmering in the background. The last half hour of this movie is among the best conclusions to a film in recent memory. This is a story extremely well told, beautifully shot and edited, and terrifically acted, with the main cast alone boasting 10 Oscar nominations in acting categories with 3 wins. And speaking of the Oscars, I fully expect the Odyssey to earn a boatload of nominations across acting and technical categories and for Best Picture, with a healthy share of wins. The Odyssey easily earns 5 claps out of 5, and my strong recommendation to see it on the big screen, the only place a movie this epic can be fully appreciated. The Odyssey being the only big new Hollywood release this weekend at the movies, I'm now going to take you to Bollywood, Nollywood, and Egypt. The Odyssey has wonderfully launched us into my first This Weekend at the Movies International Edition. But a quick note before I review an Indian movie, a Nigerian movie, and an Arab movie, all with English subtitles, by the way. I liked all 3. Now, I started to get a little concerned that maybe I was liking them because I felt I had to, this being my first TW at TM International Edition. But then I realized a foreign film good enough for American theater owners to want to show it in their theaters is logically going to be a very strong movie. The best of the best, you might say. So I hope you'll keep all that in mind as I launch into my first foreign film reviews for this channel. Let's get started. O Sukumari is a Telugu language Indian fantasy romantic comedy with English subtitles. That's a mouthful. The title is ironic because in India, Sukumari is a nickname for a woman who's delicate and gentle or beautiful. Well, the title character in this movie is indeed beautiful, and she acts delicate and gentle, but physically she's anything but. Her actual name is Damini, and she has a rare medical condition which often causes a painful and literally hair-raising electric shock to pass between her and anyone she touches, especially when she's upset. Her village is afraid of Damini, and they band together to get her married off. When they find out that a handsome young aspiring politician named Yadi from a neighboring village is interested in Damini, they go to work. Now, Yadi and Damini do fall in love and want to get married, but her condition, which everybody in the village is working really hard to keep from Yadi before the wedding day, could prove to be a problem, because married couples do occasionally touch each other. But Yadi has a secret too. His recently deceased grandfather's will states that the grandchild, who first has a child of their own, inherits 80 acres of land. The couple soon finds out that secrets are no way to start a marriage. O Sukumari is delightful and well constructed. There's a lot going on in this movie, even more than I just described, but it all fits together quite nicely. The characters are interesting and fun and very well acted, especially among the lead roles, and the whole movie is pretty funny. This being a Bollywood movie, of course, there's music and dancing, some of it traditional Indian, and some of it more modern and multicultural. There's also action in the form of physical fight scenes. Sometimes the men fight, and sometimes Damini shows how much fight she has in her. Now, even though some of the movie's plot points and characters are a little too silly for my taste, I'm still happy to give O Sukumari 4 claps out of 5. See it in a theater if you can. If not, maybe seek it out when it becomes available online. Love is in the air, and my loving black cat came for a little visit, so I thought it was time he had another cameo. Thank you for stopping by, Midnight. Now you go play. Call of My Life is a Nigerian romantic drama with English subtitles for whenever the characters speak Nigerian or even English with a heavy Nigerian accent. Soluchi is a hopeless romantic who works at a cell phone carrier call center. She receives a series of calls from an unassuming man named Eli, who turns out to be a TV news anchor. He calls the center with made-up cell phone problems just to talk to Soluchi. But seeing that he is a stranger, she brushes him off. Besides, she's in love with Kalu. But Kalu decides that she's too immature and clingy for him, so he ends their relationship. Soluchi's heart is broken, which makes her very cautious about future romantic attachments, even when she meets Eli in person and he charms her into dating him. Then Kalu resurfaces, just as Eli is pressuring Soluchi to agree to a more committed relationship than she's ready for. Whatever will sweet Soluchi do? And, not to be left out, Marbly just stopped by. Great to see you, girl. Now go play with your brother, okay? And play with her brother she just did. She just chased him down the stairs. Adorable. Call of My Life features attractive and charming lead actors who bring a depth to their roles beyond what we see in many romance movies, which is especially appropriate here because this isn't a rom-com. It is a romantic drama. The script is smart enough to keep us on the hook by sidestepping some romantic tropes while embracing others and never making it obvious where the story is headed or how it will end up until we see it all play out. In short, this is a well-balanced movie that I found very engaging and enjoyable. Call of My Life doesn't flow quite as naturally. Yeah, like this review. Call of My Life doesn't flow quite as naturally as I'd like, and some of the moments strain credibility, but it's still a very strong movie, and I'm happy to give it 4 claps out of 5. See it in a theater if you can. If not, be sure to seek it out when it becomes available online, as apparently Marbly is on her way to do right now. Saqr W Kanaria, or Saqr and Kanaria, with Saqr sometimes spelled S-A-Q-R and sometimes S-A-K-R, is an Egyptian buddy comedy and romance with English subtitles. Saqr is a legendary, lethal, merciless mercenary who is not happy with the way his last job turned out, is tired of it all, and wants to leave behind his dangerous double life and make a fresh start. Well, movie fans have seen this plot before, and we know it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to make a clean break from the life. Just ask John Wick. Saqr gives it his best shot. He moves into a quiet neighborhood and sets up a bakery, which immediately becomes very popular, partly due to the quality of Saqr's baked goods, and partly because every woman in the neighborhood finds him attractive and charming. One of them even tries to hook him up with her beautiful niece, which Saqr appreciates and pursues. Saqr's next-door neighbor is Kanaria, an obese, struggling writer who imagines himself as the hero in all of his espionage stories. Kanaria is jealous of Saqr's smoothness and popularity in the neighborhood, and Kanaria lashes out until he discovers that Saqr is everything he wishes he were and wants to be. Now, back to the part where I pointed out that it's difficult, if not impossible, to leave the life. Well, Saqr would have been well served to quote Michael Corleone in The Godfather Part 3 when he says, "Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in." That goes for Saqr and Kanaria. Okay, that wasn't good. Yes, I'm an actor, but I'm no El Pacino. Saqr and Kanaria is a lot of fun. As a comedy, it's not so much LOL funny as it is SAL funny. That's smiling a lot funny. The plot is well constructed, and the story flows effortlessly through a series of fun and interesting developments with plenty of surprises along the way. The flashes into Kanaria's rich fantasy life as he writes are especially entertaining. These characters are engaging and the actors appealing, but some of them seem to lack a little of the gravitas needed to make their characters completely believable. Nevertheless, Saqr and Kanaria is a very enjoyable 2 hours at the movies, and I give it 4 claps out of 5. See it in a theater if you can. If not, seek it out online. While all 3 of the foreign films I just reviewed have English subtitles, I would strongly encourage my fellow movie fans not to fear foreign films. Reading subtitles while watching a movie isn't any more difficult than talking with someone while writing something down or watching TV. It's easy to get used to and can open up a whole new world of movies that can be every bit as fun, interesting, and thought-provoking as anything Hollywood turns out. It's something to think about because there really is a world of great movies out there, and anyone open to watching foreign films can really expand their horizons and make this weekend, or any weekend at the movies, even more enjoyable. Now, back to thinking about the Odyssey for this weekend's Retro Reel reviews. 2 movies from the first decade of the 21st century, both of which came to my mind when I was thinking about seeing and reviewing the Odyssey. Watch on to see what they are. I have a confession to make. I hadn't even seen this next movie before this past week. In 2004, I was busy being an active duty Army soldier, and I guess I just missed it. That makes this the first Retro Reel movie that I chose to review without having previously seen it. Now, I wouldn't have moved forward with this particular Retro Reel review if I saw the movie and didn't like it and couldn't recommend it. But I did, and I do, and now I have it for you. Troy is a 2004 hysterical action. It's not a comedy. Troy is a 2004 hysterical... Did it again. It's not hysterical. It's not a comedy. Troy is a 2004 hysterical... Damn it! Troy is a 2004 historical epic action film directed by Wolfgang Petersen, who gave us Das Boot and Air Force One. It's loosely based on the Iliad by the ancient Greek writer Homer, and it depicts the 10-year-long Trojan War, even though it makes it look like the action took place over a couple of weeks. Troy stars Brad Pitt as the legendary warrior Achilles, who is reluctantly fighting for an army composed of soldiers from a variety of Greek city-states and led by the egomaniacal King Agamemnon, Brian Kix? And led by the egomaniacal King Agamemnon, Brian Cox of Succession fame. Achilles is also quite the lover, as we see him in bed with a number of women, including a young not George Burns. Achilles is also quite the lover, as we see him in bed with a number of women, including a young Rose Byrne. It's also worth noting that Achilles fights alongside Odysseus, played here by Sean Bean, the character that Matt Damon plays in 2026's The Odyssey. Besides his arguments with Agamemnon, Achilles also develops a very personal rivalry with the two princes of Troy, Hector and Paris, played by Eric Bana and Orlando Bloom, with the iconic Peter O'Toole playing their father, the King of Troy. Besides his problems with Achilles, Paris also has to deal with the fallout caused by him taking Helen, known to history as Helen of Troy, Diane Kruger, away from her husband, the King of Sparta. Sparta? The King of Sparta. Yes, the King of Sparta. Sean Connery is doing this review now. Away from her husband, the King of Sparta. The spark that ignited some long-standing rivalries and led to the beginning of the Trojan War. We also see the end of that war, featuring the infamous role played by the Trojan horse. Troy has a whole lot going on, and I was concerned about being able to follow it all, but I did. The characters are vividly drawn and well played, while the plot is usually pretty clear, and the intersecting storylines form a complex but engaging web of passion, betrayal, heroism, and both epic and very personal stakes. Now, Troy has engendered some criticism over the years for straying too much from its source material. But since we're talking about mythology here, even as a former high school history teacher, I'm okay with it, especially when we get a movie this good. But I have to say I'm still not convinced that Brad Pitt was the best casting choice for Achilles. I mean, while I was watching Brad Pitt on the screen, I could never forget that I was watching Brad Pitt. But that's a minor quibble. This is a great film, the highest grossing movie of 2004, and one that stands up well over 20 years later. And now, last but not least, my retro reel review of the movie 300. Even though 300 takes place 7 centuries after the Trojan War and the events in Troy and the Odyssey, all 3 movies take place in ancient Greece, involve war, and prominently feature the city-state of Sparta. To the casual movie fan, these may seem like very similar movies, but put the time gap into perspective. If the Battle of Thermopylae from 300 happened this year, then the Trojan War would have taken place sometime between the exploratory voyages of Leif Erikson and Christopher Columbus. I found that realization pretty interesting. Hopefully I'm not the only one. 300 is a 2006 epical historical action film. Epic historical fantasy action film. 300 is a 2006 epic historical fantasy action film co-written and directed by Zack Snyder and based on the 1998 Dark Horse Comics limited series of the same name by Frank Miller and Lynn Varley. The film, like its source material, presents a fictionalized retelling of the Battle of Thermopylae in the Greco-Persian Wars. The story centers on King Leonidas, a career-defining role for Gerard Butler, who leads an army of 300 Spartan soldiers against the Persian god-king Xerxes, Rodrigo Santoro, and his invading army of 300,000. As the battle rages, Queen Gorgo, Lena Headey, is back in Sparta trying to rally support for her husband. This film also marks the film debut of Michael Fassbender. More than just a war movie, 300 also gives us a taste of Greek history and culture. Just a taste, as many details have been fictionalized. But we do learn why Sparta was different from the other Greek city-states, as shown in its depiction of the brutal military training of their young boys, and as exemplified in Leonidas's conversation with Arcadian soldiers before the battle, and especially the famous "This is Sparta" moment early in the film. 300 is memorable, both as a very entertaining movie and as a groundbreaking one. The movie made the career of director Zack Snyder, who, in making the film, pioneered the often copied techniques of speed ramping, crushed black levels and high contrast, and comic book framing, which showed the studios that a live-action movie could faithfully replicate the exact aesthetics of a graphic novel. All of this gave us a uniquely stylized movie, which is a big reason so many movie fans loved it and still do. It also gave us the graphic depictions of hyper-violence, which some have lauded and others have criticized. 300 presents a type of unapologetic machismo, which makes some viewers feel stronger than they are and inspires others to imagine what it would feel like to be that strong and that heroic. Regardless, for those who can handle it, 300 is a very enjoyable movie that's worth a look, or a rewatch, which is what I just did as part of writing this retro reel review. Oh, and one more note. I would also recommend 2014's 300 Rise of an Empire, which is a 300 sidequel. Yes, that's a thing, because it takes place before, during, and after the events of 300. Now, 300 is the superior film, but for fans of that film, I think they will likely also enjoy its sidequel. You've been watching This Weekend at the Movies. Click the red and black film reel logo that appears on your screen so you don't miss any of my honest, spoiler-free, quick turnaround reviews of many of the newest movies in theaters in time to help you to decide whether to see them opening week. You'll also get my retro reel reviews of terrific movies from the past with some connection to that weekend's new theatrical releases. And occasionally, I'll post some other special movie-related videos just for fun. I'd love to hear what you thought about this video and any of my specific reviews in the comments. I really enjoy hearing from my fellow movie fans. I'm Dave McLean, actor, voiceover artist, and movie reviewer. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my love of movies with you.